going to cover logging and VDyno, virtual dyno, how it works, how accurate is it, how to get a somewhat accurate reading in virtual dyno, and just, you know, how to log, what gears you should be in. But anyways, access port, if you're watching this video at this point, you probably already have one. You probably already know to start your data log, you're going to click the center button, and to stop your data log, you're going to click the center button. So I'll go ahead and show you what happens here when you start logging. You're going to get these blue dots kind of up and down. Now that signifies that the access port is logging. You hit the center button one more time, log's going to stop. I'm going to include on the screen what parameters you want to log, because there are specific parameters that you want for your tuner, and even just for yourself if you want to just take a look and check out kind of how the card's doing. So next thing we're going to do here, we're going to head out to my logging location, and I'll take you through a log. Pretty straightforward, but we'll do that just so you can see, you know, the same log that I take. It will be the same log that's in my virtual dyno graph when you guys see that later. So anyways, let's get out to the spot. Alright guys, once you have gone out to wherever you're taking your log, you're going to want to log in between the RPM that your tuners suggested to you. So for me it's 3,000 to 7,500. Typically it's 2,500 to 6,500, but depends on the car, depends on the engine. So we'll get this up to 3,000 and then I'll kind of just take you through it. It's basically just hold on for dear life and let her eat. So we're wide open right now, boost's building, just keeping an eye on everything. Fourth gear is very fast, it goes very, very high. And that is it. Oh, I don't even think we revved it all the way out to limiter because I have more RPM. This thing, it's got a lot. But anyways, that's basically it. That's the log. Not much to it. Hold on for dear life, be real careful, make sure, you know, you're kind of out there in the boons where you're not going to be bothering anybody and upsetting anybody. But I kind of do like a one and done type thing, sometimes two, just because the car is loud and you know, there are people around here, so I really don't want to, you know, hang out too much. But when we get back, I will show you what the log looks like. I'll show you kind of what you should maybe look at within the log itself, what's important, what isn't, and then we can go over virtual dyno, how to set it up, and you know, how to make it give you some useful information. But anyways, that is it for now. Okay, so you guys have come home, you've got your log, you've taken it, and now you're just working on getting the log over to the PC, which I'm assuming most of you know how to do by now. I don't have my access port with me just at the moment, but Access Port Manager, you're going to go through your drop downs because by default it'll be on maps most likely. You just go to logs and you drag and drop your most recent log to your desktop, which is this guy here. So once you have your log, it's a good idea to kind of give it a quick look before you send it out or do anything with it. So it opens in Accel. It is a CSV file, which is comma separated values. It's a very basic Accel format. So what you're going to do when you get your log is you will have all the parameters that you know, you need to log for your tune, and so those are going to be all of your columns. So time, basically when you start to log, and it just counts up. Accelerator pedal position, so you can tell when you're going watt, so you can see here 17%, that's part throttle, and then you can see I start going flat here, 30, 70, and then 95 is flat, 95, 96, pretty much wide open. And then you can see here throttle position, 78 is wide open on my car. All cars are a little different. I don't know if that's tune related or what, but 78 is wide open. So yeah, that's kind of just how you can use you know, some of these columns to look at some interesting info. But first thing you're going to do once you pull up your log is you're going to want to go to view and you're going to want to freeze the top row. What this will do is it will keep your columns in order when you're scrolling down, so you can take a look at everything, and you're not going to lose the label. So pretty much the first thing I look at when I get a log is I go and I look at column. For me it's column K, but not retard. And just take a look. Basically you want this to be 0 or as close to 0 as possible. So we've got a little spool up knock here just as we hit kind of our you know, 20 psi range, and then it peters off. That's normal. Could be road noise, could just be spool up knock, which is also normal. These cars have that quite a bit, but you keep kind of scrolling on down. It looks like we're pretty healthy. We pick up 0.4, 0.09, which is nothing. half a degree here, which is also nothing. Again, probably just noise. We're getting near the end of the pull, so everything's getting nice and hot. But all the way out to 0 at 7,500. So that's a clean log in my book. So I do like looking at my knock retard first, and then I'll even come over and look at something like boost. So here you can see how long does it take my car to build boost. Well, I can tell that right here I'm going wide open. Let's say right at 95, the throttle's wide. And you can see the boosts start changing from vacuum. So we've got 10 psi of vacuum, 9.5, whatever, and it starts to build into boost. So now I know, okay, I went wide open right at 3,000, which is what Will, my tuner, Purple drank. That's what he asks for. So here we are. 3,000 RPM, and we are wide open. So now it's very easy to look and see what our boost is in correlation to that. So right now, 0, right? We're just on the precipice of starting to build boost, and you can follow this column down. And what I typically do is I'll stop around 19 or so and kind of just see where we're at, 3,800. It looks like we hit 19 even at 3,600. Even by 3,500, we're 19, 18 PSI, and there's no wastegate in the car. No wastegate duty whatsoever, so I know Will's not forcing it. He's letting the turbo kind of just build boost on its own, kind of slowly, I guess. Again, this is to protect my injectors, from leaning out. If you look at my injector duty, which is also nice to look at, you can see that it climbs quite quickly and it gets right up into the high 90s, 99, and you basically don't really want to exceed that. Some cars run okay past 100, some don't. Mine, when I was at 107 injector duty up top, the car was flying, but it wasn't happy. It was kind of spark blowout, missing, things like that. So we can see here that it's it's a close call, but it is okay. Air fuel ratio is great. 11.7 is kind of target. Even 11.6, 11.9, that's all mint. So we're beautiful there. The other funny part is you can see how hard my boost drops off. This is again to preserve fuel. Peaks around 23, 24, and then it just drops. And that's Will just not increasing wastegate. He's not giving it any wastegate at the end of the pull. So anyways, this is what a log looks like. Again, amazing for troubleshooting, for diagnosing. Best is always to do watt log, fourth gear ideally, because you'll get more data points that way. It loads up the engine a little harder. You can do third though if you're limited for space or just you don't feel comfortable logging fourth. I get it. But anyways, that's kind of the basics of what a log looks like. Now, what you can do with this once you have the log is you can use this tool here called Virtual Dyno. This tool, I'm going to start by saying right now, cannot be taken as the law, as the Bible. The power numbers here are only as good as the data that you input. What does this mean? It means your log needs to be good. It needs to have all of the correct parameters, which again, I'm going to list on the screen to make sure that you guys have them all when you're logging. But the road condition, the road that you log on kind of matters. If it's downhill, this is going to show that the car is making a ton of power. If it's uphill, it's going to show that the car is not making any power. The way Virtual Dyno works is it looks at a ton of different values from the log. It looks at the mile per hour, looks at RPM, it looks at the time that the pull takes, it knows what gear you're in, it knows the gear ratio. Now it is up to you as the user to make sure you're selecting the correct car and to make sure that you're entering all the values correctly. So I'll show you what I mean by that. And here we have my car. Okay, and I log in fourth. And I make sure that my tire size is in here. Now this is saved profile, so it's always going to be correct, but you do need to make sure that you put your correct tire size in because your overall tire size, diameter, tire height will also impact the power numbers. So I've got everything exactly how it is on my car. I've got, my car selected. It knows the weight of the car. 300 pounds is me and the tote of crap that I carry in the back of the car. So I know that that's kind of always static. Depending on how much fuel's in your car, the weight of your car is going to change, but that doesn't really make a huge difference. Like even 100 pounds plus or minus isn't going to kind of hit your power numbers much. So, don't worry about that. So once you have your car set up in here, and this is great for speeds, for Evos, Subarus, whatever. There's a lot of platforms that take advantage of this. Once you have your car set up, you can load your log. Now, I'm going to load the log that we took just earlier, and you can see exactly what's going on. Oh, because I have it open in Accel, so let's just close this. And we're going to try this one more time, and we should be good here. And we're gonna make sure that my car is selected as the profile, and boom. So we can see here that the car is making 360 wheel at 6,400 RPM, so nice and high. 5,000 RPM is our peak torque, so still kind of low, but again, as boost tapers, we're going to lose torque. If we were to be increasing boost, so let's say boost peaks around 23, if it were to maintain 23 or even go up to 25, 26, 27, this torque curve would be quite a bit flatter, and that's something that you can see in Virtual Dyno. Now, what do I use Virtual Dyno for? I use Virtual Dyno for seeing the difference between kind of like a base map and your final map. So if we load another log and we go kind of to where I keep all my logging files, so logs, these are the logs from Will, and we go on kind of, I guess, my first map, which would have been a base map. It's super cool to see the difference. I only revved this out to 5,000 for the first base map because that is all that Will asked. And then I believe the second one I might have pulled it out a little longer. Let's see. Oh yeah, so these pulls are all just to around 5,000, just as Will asked, and you can see it doesn't make any power, 230, 240 wheel, but it wants to make power, so let's see what we made on our second revision. I actually did 4 revisions, but one of them was a replica, so it's in here. So anyways, let's see what we made on this revision here. So 311, this time we pulled all the way to about 74-ish, I think is where we ended, yep. And you can just see the difference. We made 50 wheel and 30 wheel torque more, and it just absolutely, the difference is insane. 360 wheel to 311, 298 pounds of torque to 330, and you can just see how it's pulling. You can see I was making more boost in that earlier revision down low. We'll have to take that out to help keep the car from leaning. It was dumping fuel, opening up the injectors, which you don't want to do. So Virtual Dyno is an amazing tool for comparing. I wouldn't go ahead and tell everybody my car makes 360 wheel because I don't believe that it does. I believe it makes somewhere between 350 and 370 because I've had logs that have shown me 380. So I do believe that it's somewhere there, 350 to 370 wheel roughly, and maybe around 300 to 330 torque. That does feel about accurate. But the reason this tool is useful is for comparing, your first revision to your final revision, your first revision to your second revision, your old turbo to your new turbo. So if you had a KO4 and you put on a BNRS3, it'd be awesome to see how your power has changed because this will show you a visual representation of such. Obviously, you can feel it when you're driving the car, but having it in front of you is kind of cool too. Now, big trick with Virtual Dyno. You have got to make sure that all these logs you take are on these same roads. I have logged the same roads for about 5 years now, from when my car was stock block GT30 to all the way now where it's nothing stock about it. And the reason for this is consistency. I know even if the road is on a bit of a hill, which it's relatively flat, but it's not perfect, that road. So there are some bumps and dips. And now that I log to 75, 7600 RPM, I'm hitting those bumps in my log, and I need to find either, a longer road or a flatter part of that same road to start doing my logs on. But anyways, I've been logging on the same section of road. I log in both directions, forward and back, and usually there's about a 10 to 15 horse difference, which is how I know that one way is kind of on a hill and one way isn't. But also tailwinds, if it's very windy and you're going against the wind versus into the wind, that'll also impact your numbers significantly. But the main thing is just to make sure that you've got your weight entered correctly, you've got your gear entered correctly, and then the final piece I want to touch on is the correction factor. When you first install Virtual Dyno, it's going to say DynoJet up here, which is going to show you the numbers you want to see. It would probably say this car makes 400 wheel. We can actually simulate that. So this is kind of what this would look like when you first get it. Let me just go to where my settings are. Where are we at? Options. Here we go. Sorry about that. So Dyno. So by default, DynoJet, which is 1.09 correction factor. If we look now, my car is making big sauce, 300 and almost 390 wheel, 350 foot-pounds. It basically inflates the numbers. DynoJets typically do that. They don't inflate the numbers, but they're just very light reading dynos. So in the Mazda community, the 1.01 correction factor is used commonly because it reflects what a Mustang dyno would read. So it is to be said as a little more accurate versus the DynoJet numbers, but also I would rather see lower numbers and know that the car is faster than see high numbers and know that the car is slower, right? So this is a huge thing. You really
you really want to make sure you've got your correction factor. But otherwise, that's it. Virtual Dyno is very simple, very straightforward. Once you've got your logs loaded onto your desktop, it's a piece of cake to load them into Virtual Dyno. And yeah, I mean, you can compare against your buddies. I have logs from KO4s that end at like 6 grand, and mine just keeps going for what seems like ever. And it's funny to look at and compare. And again, if you have a friend that's got a Subaru or an Evo and you guys are out logging, you can overlay them all and see the differences. Who's making power where? Why is one guy making more power than the other? So on and so forth. So there's a lot of cool things to be done with Virtual Dyno.